Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good day and appreciate you joining us today for this monthly Partner Spotlight. Today we are going to talk about justice served, fair chance, second chance. You know, we've been hearing about it at a federal, state, and local level, and we wanted to invite our friends back from Department of Corrections and certainly down from the Cumberlands area. So without further ado, we have Kristen Porter here. She is director of the Reentry Services Program with Department of Corrections here at the state. And she is going to share a little bit about the state's framework currently around the Reentry Services programs. And then we also have Aaron Pointer, who is director of Reentry down in the Cumberlands area, who has really built a program from the local level up framework that is working down there, and he'll be able to share that with us as well today. And then after both presentations, you all ask any questions. We are at the state level, and I'm part of the KWIB staff, but at the state level, it is our intention to scale this and move this across the state. So this population, justice served, is an integral part of our population, and they'll get more into the numbers, I'm sure, but please do share your attention then with Kristen Porter and Aaron Pointer. Kristen Porter and Aaron Pointer. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
That's what I was going to say. We tried to confuse you, Debbie.
Clearly, thank you. But without further ado, Kristen, please.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for inviting myself, and I'm sure Aaron will say the same thing, to speak today. I know that we are both very passionate about helping the justice-involved population, so there is not a better time for this presentation but for it to be April and it being Second Chances Month. So I'm super excited. I'm really just take a few moments and talk to you all today about what we look like in the Department of Corrections, some things that we're doing, some gaps that we have, and then kind of really hand it off to Aaron to really talk about, how areas are filling in some of the gaps that we have, and some things that they really have that is awesome going on. So I'm going to try to share my screen. So let me do that really quick here. And can someone let me know if I was successful? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So we are I am with, of course, the Kentucky Department of Corrections, and specifically the director of the Division of Reentry Services. When you hear the Department of Corrections, we are a whole lot of things, but overall, we have two mission statements just as a whole. One is to protect the Commonwealth in various ways possible, but then the second is also to provide opportunities. And that way, if someone has gotten in trouble, really looking at, okay, what we can do as a state agency to better this individual and make them a productive citizen in society. So that is really the arm of the Department of Corrections we're going to focus on and really talk about today, is the opportunity side. Just to start off with a few statistics to kind of show you, the Department of Corrections in the state of Kentucky is big. We have a lot of individuals. There's about 50,000 individuals that are on active supervision in the community. And that means that they are free. They're not inmates, anything like that, but they are out in the community, whether sentenced to parole supervision, probation supervision, pretrial diversion, shock probation, lots of different options, but they have an obligation to a parole board or to the court for completing their sentence in some way. And sometimes that means they need to do things like get a job or continue their education, things like that. So it's a lot of citizens in the Commonwealth. That is in the community. Incarcerated, we have quite a few as well, as you'll see there on the screen. So we have almost 18, 19, 20,000, depending on the given day. And that's at various locations. Kentucky is one of two states in the United States where we house our state inmates, both in state prisons, but also in local county jails. There's only one other state in the United States that does that. So we're a little unique in that you'll see there on the screen, we have a lot of locations. We've got 14 prisons. We have 74 jails, a whole lot of reentry service centers. When I say reentry service center, that is the newer term for a halfway house. So that is what I mean by that. So we have a lot of locations in the state of Kentucky where we house the population. The unfortunate statistics that I'll share with you today is overall out of the 50 states, unfortunately, which is why we are so passionate about this population, in the state of Kentucky, we're very high for incarceration numbers when you compare to other states, especially the female population, which is a little unique when you look at other states as well, and also parents, so those that have children as well. So we unfortunately rank high in comparison to other states in those areas. The reality and the fact of the matter is that 95% at least of those that are incarcerated will be released someday. So this is not necessarily your Orange is the New Black shows and Mayor of Kingstown and all, all those shows that we like to watch for entertainment, but it is real life. 95% of the people are coming back out one way or another. And so it's our duty in the Department of Corrections to try to help with that. But as you can see with the numbers, it's challenging. It's a big task. So it wasn't until February 1st of 2018, which is in state government time. I'm not sure, one day they'll tell me to quit saying this, but I don't think it's very long, just a few years ago, that a division of reentry was actually created. Before that, it was very piecemeal together to where you had probation and parole officers in the community, you had prison staff, different staff members who, would try to also provide different types of reentry services in addition to their everyday dedicated job. But as of February 1st, 2018, an actual division of reentry services was created in the Department of Corrections. And our job in this division is to focus solely on all of those barriers that someone faces while they are either in the criminal justice system, leaving the criminal justice system, or anywhere in between, basically. So in our division specifically, we have 4 main goals. Collaborate with all areas in the department. So our division is unique. We are one of 2 divisions within the Department of Corrections that we focus on the inside of incarceration and the outside of incarceration. Many areas in the Department of Corrections, you deal with the institution side or you deal with the community side, and we're a little unique because we deal with both. Because of the numbers that I started this conversation with, you can see our second goal is huge and in the only way we can be successful. And that is to have wonderful community partnerships with various agencies, that is also other cabinets that are state government, private entities as well, foundations, anyone who is willing to help our population. Our staff can't handle that task alone. And so that's why, things like this is so important to me and such a passion for me, because our population needs help and we can't do it by ourselves. We also are tasked, our third goal is to provide that programming. So, when I talk about the different reentry needs today, some of that is cognitive behavioral programming, really working on that criminal thinking, changing that mindset, but then also programming in regards to those life skills that people need to learn that maybe they didn't have pro-social parents that taught those things when they were being brought up, or didn't finish school, different things like that. And then also our fourth goal that we focus on here in our division specifically is the risk and needs assessment. So our division is responsible for making sure that people have a risk and needs assessment. And the way that we use that in the department is it's a validated tool, and it determines how likely someone is to reoffend, but also while they're incarcerated or while on supervision in the community, what needs they have. Is it employment? Is it substance abuse? Is it education? So that's really the 4 areas that our division focuses on. Today, I'm going to really talk mainly about a lot of tangible barriers that people face and how we really work with those. But over the past 5 years, there's been several ways that we've moved forward to try to meet and reach some of those goals. We are now a division of 84 staff in total. So I have staff that are located in every prison throughout the state, in every community, in every probation or parole area, and in some jails. So that you'll hear me talk about that as a gap that we have in the Department of Corrections here in just a little bit. And that's where I will tee up Aaron to talk, so well about what he's doing, because that's a very, very needed stopgap measure that we have going on basically with that population. Trying to ensure that when people are released from custody of the Department of Corrections and the same services are provided was key for us as a new division. So trying to ensure that if you're released from a prison in Eastern Kentucky or Western Kentucky, you're getting some of those same services and it's not different from one location to another. One of the biggest focuses, I am very passionate about training. And so we train all the probation and parole officers that are hired in, and also those that are hired in to work in the prisons on a lot of reentry efforts as well, because our 84 staff can't do it all by ourselves. So really kind of training them in various topics as well to be able to help with all the reentry needs that our population has is key. So we do that in the department as well. The biggest focus we have are our collaborations, and I'll talk more about those in just a minute. But that's the only way we get things done, is being able to leverage, partnerships and community involvement as well. Making sure that there are resources out there, and you can't show that you're doing any good without collecting data. So those are kind of a lot of things that we've done. When you look at our division specifically, we have a variety of the types of staff that we hire. We've got community reentry coordinators. We have staff that are located in the communities as well that focus solely on employment for the population. Most of us on this call definitely have a huge passion and focus on employment. That is for the individual, but also the Commonwealth as well as a whole. And so that is one of the biggest barriers that our population faces is employment, and being able to obtain and maintain that job as well. So we have staff solely dedicated on that for that in the community. We have institutional reentry coordinators, so people that work in the prisons, preparing someone for release, facilitating programs. And then in select jails, so we have 74 jails across the state. In 18 of those jails, I have a jail reentry coordinator who handles some of the reentry release services. So one of the biggest gaps that you'll see in the Department of Corrections for our division that I always say in all of our meetings is, our division, when we were created with the best of intentions, but no funding. So we have had to be very creative in all the things that we do, and we beg and borrow and steal. And sometimes I will try to find any grant possible to get to the 84 staff where we are. But we still have room to grow, because there are many jails where we don't have a dedicated reentry staff member there to assist that population as well. So that is very key for us. And then of course you can't function without your supervisors and, all of the central office people, those type of positions as well. So those are all on there too. One of the biggest things that we do as well is we host events, and many of you on this call are community partners that participate or come to or help host those events. We do expungement sessions. At every expungement session we partner with the Administrative Office of the Courts to make sure that people have a current, legit, accurate background check. That way people understand what is on their record. We talk to them. We have DPA on site to talk to them about what charges are eligible for expungement, in hopes of, if they are eligible, being able to pursue that and get something off of their record to then be able to get a job in the future. So we host a bunch of those. Since the creation of our division, up until the end, so these numbers I've got at the bottom, that is through the end of 2022, we have hosted 141 expungement sessions jointly across the Commonwealth in the past several years. So trying to host events to get information to our population is key for us. That's one of the things that we feel very strongly about. We host reentry simulations, and that is not necessarily for the population, but that is for all kinds of community entities. I know some of you had participated in these to really show people that participate what it is like to be a part of the criminal justice system. It's about a 2-hour session that we host, and it simulates the first 4 weeks of release from incarceration for someone. If you participate in this session, then you are, given a script of, hi, my name's Kristen. I've spent 20 years in prison, and here I'm being released with $100, and here's what the parole board's told you got to do. Now go forth and do it. And so we walk you through that. It's kind of set up like a similar to like a job fair, if went to a college job fair at any point, but there's booths set up. You have to visit different places. So it's very eye-opening for individuals that want to be helpful for the Department of Corrections. Or also, if you are trying to get people in your organizations to understand what it's like to be involved in the criminal justice system. So we've hosted 94 of those since we've started. And then we also host job and resource fairs. That is something that we have historically hosted in the communities, but also while someone is incarcerated in the prisons. We would bring local business partners and employers on site onto the prison grounds to host those in hopes of making that connection before release. I'm sure everybody has heard of COVID. So that happened and put a little bit of a halt to our prison events that we were doing. But we are very happy that now in 2023, we're able to start hosting those back up in the prisons to be able to get that information back out to the population, because that is very important to us. In addition to all of those things, our staff teach a lot of the programs in the Department of Corrections. So if you've heard of MRT classes or Portal New Directions classes, a lot of those life skills classes or evidence-based programs, we facilitate a lot of those. Our population, for many programs, they get good time credit off of their sentence for completing it. So it's something that is definitely an incentive for them. But while they're doing it, they're going to get something out of it, one way or another, even if they're only getting in there to get the good time credit, or if they're in there because they do want to change, they're going to get something out of those classes. I also like to highlight that if they do those classes, and you can look down there at the expansion of our division. Before the creation of our division, the department had 6,845 program completions. Last year alone, of course, COVID hit and we took a little bit of a dip, and we've been climbing back up. But last year we had 23,886. Most of those completions take 90 days off of someone's sentence, and in turn saves the state money, because that is at least 90 days of incarceration we are not having to pay for. So this has been huge and for the department to be able to show a very good return on investment for our programs. We have a lot of collaborations and a lot of projects going on, because if you can think about a barrier that a justice-involved person faces, we try to help with it. And that can be from everything from clothes on their back to needing to further their education, to needing Narcan, needing transportation. So we have a lot of collaborations going on that we do really well with. There's always barriers out there that we're realizing, oh gosh, yep, this is a barrier. We need to fix this. We need to address this. So there's lots of things that we are looking to improve on. Our most recent thing is really kind of some of the technology advancements we've been doing. As you all know, if you're incarcerated, clearly you're removed from the community, and because the rest of society is moving forward, you don't necessarily do that. So one of the things, that we kept seeing in the Department of Corrections is a lot of times people are released and they aren't up to speed with today's technology. So we have, different applications that we've worked with companies to really kind of start creating and developing. My favorite one we have at the moment, we've got a few, but my favorite one is very similar to like a Candy Crush game, but it's a reentry simulator that they can use and play on their tablets to really kind of play and try to prepare them at the time of release for some of the things to expect. One of our key focuses this year is employment. And so you'll hear me, kind of say, that is our secretary's, one of our secretary's key focuses. It's one of the governor's key focuses. and one of the biggest barriers for our population. So before someone's released, we're trying to focus on a few things. There are inmates jobs that people have and can gain skills while they're incarcerated to learn and take that to an employer when they're released. There are industry level jobs that we have. We have many prison industry programs where there's print shops, there's braille programs, welding, equine programs, carpentry. There's a whole list of programs to where people are getting certifications before they're released to be able to take those skills into the workforce. Obviously, furthering education is key for employment as well. So we have GED and post-secondary education as well. There's a lot of college courses that we are super excited about that we just started offering recently to really prepare someone for the time of release. When they are released, to focus on the employment area, that is where I was saying earlier, we have 11 dedicated staff across the state that is their sole job. They have a job to make sure someone gets a job. And so that is what they do. They will meet with someone, they will do person-centered assessments with them. 80% of their job is they will meet with the population and say, okay, what is your skill level? What experience do you have? And what interests do you have? They will then refer to sometimes direct employment, sometimes job skills training. That's where a lot of our partnerships in many areas, a lot of the workforce areas and career centers, different things like that on here come into play. We do a lot of referrals with this population for that. And sometimes they get a referral to a job, but also to any type of job skills or employment training program to really improve their situation in whatever way that may be. From 2018 to 2022, we saw over 12,000 people to really talk to them about employment, and 57% of those individuals end up employed after meeting with the REPA. So we've had great return and success numbers on that. So the last thing I will say, and I'm going to hand it over to Aaron, is in the Department of Corrections for the state inmate population, we have come a long way, but we still have room to grow. So before the creation of our division, we were at almost a high. We had gone down just a tiny bit, but our highest in 2015 was a 44.56 recidivism rate. And that meant for every 2 people we released from prison, 1 of them was guaranteed to come back to us. So we knew we had to improve and we had to focus. We did a really good job for a long time on the public protection portion, but focus on the other part of our own mission statement. So I was very excited this year to announce for 2022, the most recent recidivism rate was 27.15%. And so that is still, in my opinion, 27.15% room to grow, but a huge reduction in where we have been over the years. So it shows, and the data shows what we're doing is working and we're moving in the right directions. But there's still lots of room for improvement and lots of areas that we can grow it as well, just specifically as a department at the state level too. So I'll stop there and I'm going to tee Aaron up because Aaron and I are, we work so well together because he is going to really talk about and explain where one of the shortfalls that I highlighted with the Department of Corrections is we don't have staff, reentry staff dedicated in every jail. And to really help with that, Aaron has been super creative. So I'm going to let him kind of talk about what he's done, but it's because of the partnerships like this that we can serve the whole state in many ways. Aaron?
Hey, thank you very much. My name is Aaron Pointer, and I'm the Director of Reentry Programming. I'm a shared resource between the local areas, the South Central and the Cumberland's Workforce Development Boards. I'm going to share my screen. I have, let's see, a very short, which if you know me, that's going to surprise you, but a very short presentation to share. Can you see that? All right, cool. All right, so really what we had to think about, and my job has been around for a few years now, but really with my tenure coming on at the Workforce Development Board, the local area, we started off with really targeting partnerships at that local county attorney level. Now, it helps to have some understanding of the judicial system to really understand how everything works and flows together. And I have a visual here in a minute that I think is really going to kind of explain everything a little bit easier, but I'm going to warn you, the visual that I made, I'm more of a talker, not a presentation maker. So keep that in mind as we go through this. But as I started this position, we started working through things. What I realized and what was really evident is there is no hub of knowledge and resources and somebody to say you need this, go here, and nobody is doing that, right? And it's like, why are we not? There's so much, and I say this a lot, there's so much goodwill in Kentucky and in our local areas of people that really want to do good work and want to help out and have the hearts and have the missions to do what really everybody wants to do. And the thing is, and now, again, this visual that I'll show you later, we all have the same end goal. I mean, I think we can pretty well say we want to strengthen our communities and strengthen our workforce. And how are we going to do it? We're going to help people get to their version of success, right? Because there's room for everybody to take a place in this. And so this is kind of a progression, our best practices and things like that I just really want to talk about. And I'll do a lot more talking. I think I only got 5 slides, right? So feel free to stop me and ask questions, or I'll take questions at the end and I'll share data or whatever y'all want to talk about. But let me get this over here. So this is the workforce system as it applies to this workforce triage model, right? If you'll see the purple there, that indicates pools of individuals. We have individuals that are sitting in detention centers. We have individuals that are sitting in recovery centers. We have individuals that are walking through judicial centers every single day that don't have their needs met. They're not prepped and ready to go into the workforce, but maybe with a little bit of work and a little bit of targeted attention, we can get there. And the thing is that's exactly what we're doing. That's what's happening, right? But the thing is this is the workforce system, right? And everybody, community organizations, the workforce board, the local area, employers and business partners, we all have a cog in this machine, but oftentimes we don't have anybody driving. We don't have anybody taking individuals from entry to employment. And this is one thing that I wanted to pause and for anybody that's heard me talk before, this is actually one of my favorite visualizations for kind of what we established. But now at this point, I need to add another arrow, right? I need to add an arrow going from employers back into the system. And so what we have to do is, we've created this pipeline, we've created these processes and such, but now we can take this and start using it as a retention tool for our business partners, because I mean, I interact with people and I'm sure everybody is aware, but sometimes people are one check away from really being on some hard times, right? They may be employed, but they're getting by the skin of their teeth, right? And so what we do, or what we can do, and this is something that I've really started promoting in our areas, is that employer knowing this is the workforce system, this is what's available, come to the local WIB, the area, because we can help. We can help utilize these resources and do it in the right order and do it in the right way to retain those individuals. And so my spin on that is it develops a rapport with the business's employees. They feel like they're taken care of. They feel like they're seen. They know and they recognize that, hey, my employer is trying to give me the best chance to be successful. And what that also does is that also opens avenues for our state agencies and for our providers to really flex some of those muscles that oftentimes go unnoticed, right? We can upskill people, incumbent workers at our employer partners, or at our business partners, which again builds that relationship, builds that rapport, gets everybody flowing in the same direction. So that's something, especially with this, that I really I'm promoting this, right? I want our employer partners to know, like, yeah, we can get you the people because that's what everybody's begging for, but we can also help you keep them, right? We can also help prepare those individuals for that next step in their career where they're staying. And the thing is all, the tide rises all ships, right? And I'm really big on that. One thing, and this is something that's very in the very center of this visual here, is our community organizations. I talked about it earlier about there's so much goodwill. There's so many people that want to do good work and help and do what they do best, right? And that really has to be one of the center cogs to this machine. Is that's who it takes. Kristen talked about it and was phenomenal in saying, like, that's the need. Right? We don't have enough staff to do everything, right? And nobody's experts in everything, but by using that as one of the center cogs, we're able to help out and get some of these barriers removed and knocked out, or decrease barriers by use of our community, right? One thing that I'll talk about it in a couple other slides is by utilizing our local and community organizations, they're benefiting from the referrals, right? They're benefiting from them being able to provide services. So not only is it helping the individual, it's helping that organization, whether that be something data tracking where they go for grants, whether they are billing for services, things like that, things of that nature. It really does help out. And then, I'll go to the next slide real quick. This is the most crucial part of everything, right? Deploying our resources in the proper order is absolutely necessary in everything we do. And I'll use this example. You would not hire a plumber to build your house from the ground up. You know, you're not going to hire an electrician to come in and install your plumbing or do your driveway, right? Sometimes in more rural communities, that might be the same guy, but hey, I mean, for the most part, you want the experts doing what they're going to be doing. And so our organizations, especially at that local level, are plentiful. But what I identified, or what we identified, is everybody's doing their own thing, right? And that was hard to get around. And so I'll talk about WIOA, for instance, WIOA services. That's a once in a lifetime deal, right? And so if you take an individual that's not ready, you know, by whatever's going on in his or her life, if you take them and send them through a training and they're not ready and they exit training, or they burn the bridge with the employer, or they don't just quite finish up, what have we done? Right? You know, bad performance metrics by whoever's, you know, the direct service provider. You've ruined a relationship, or you've really rocked a relationship with a business partner or an employer partner. So it's not good. So what we do is establish and deploy resources in the proper order. And I can say this, and, you know, I'll give a shout out kind of across the board, and I'll talk about some of these different programs that we've got going on. But I see Goodwill Industries or Goodwill of Kentucky present today, right? Huge partner, much needed, right? I see Emily from Site, or previous Site, EKSEP, right? Huge need right there. And so we have been able to take individuals and stair-step them through a process that I'll talk about here in a second, that really, you know, what we're doing matters and it's beneficial, and we're able to pipe them through that workforce system, and they achieve success, right? So really, and I just want to point out, you know, the basic needs, and I'm going to talk about this here in just a second. Basic needs are the basis of it, right? That's why it's the biggest on the tweaked food pyramid over here, right? It used to be the carbs section, right? Now that's not, we're not supposed to do that anymore. But basic needs, that's what it is, right? And really, this entire premise is based off the local area. State partners can help the local area and the local area can help the local area, but we got to do it together. Right. There are resources that are available locally because sometimes driving 70 miles might as well be 700. You have providers that you can type in on Google, or you can do these things and find like, oh, I need this for to eliminate this specific barrier, but it's in an entirely different county. Well, sometimes that's just not an option, right? And we have to be very thoughtful about that. So my next slide is really probably the proudest thing that I have been a part of in my tenure in my professional life, right? And it's called Putting Kentuckians First. And so we identified everything you've seen prior to this is barriers that we as an organization identified and tried to fix, right? And we did it step by step by step. And we got better and we got better and we got better and we got more targeted and we got more partners and really was able to come up with a best practices kind of method to what we do. And we coined this Putting Kentuckians First. I have to give a shout out to Miss Debbie. They were super supportive and was like, yes, we want to, y'all are doing good work and we want to support and help, and the calls and stuff that we've been a part of and just kind of the back and forth has really poured into this. But a couple things that I want to highlight before I show you the actual model is it's all about pulling resources together. So when Putting Kentuckians First, it's locally based, right? It is county by county, a program county by county, and it starts at the county attorney or that local judicial level. One thing that I want to really make clear is I don't want people going and seeing Kristen's people, right? I don't want them getting to her, right? But by nature of just life and how our judicial system works, there's a lot of people that have already seen Kristen that ultimately will, but they're going to be coming back. She shared the stats of how many is going to be coming back, right? And so what we do is we set it up at that local level, and we do it county by county by county. And we have the local providers. So we have a task force or a team at the local level paired up with our state organizations that service that specific area, right? And what we do is we take a very intentional approach to what we do, right? And the big thing is, and I'll always say this, is let the experts do their job. Let the people that know, our business service team needs to know and know that we're interacting with these pools of people and know what the benefits are, to talk with our business partners, our employer partners, to tell them, hey, this is, the WOTC tax credit, fair chance bonding. These are the things that you can do to make this a viable pipeline for you, right? And really, last thing before I get into the model is Putting Kentuckians First really has three legs that it stands on. It's a three-legged stool, right? One is pre-release programming. And so as Kristen talked about, one half of our inmate population at that state level is at the local level. They are housed in the communities that we live in, right? Sometimes they're close. Sometimes just yesterday, I was talking with an individual that they're coming back to Russell County, Kentucky, and they're housed in Wayne County. I'll take that every single day, right? We can get that happening. We can start some conversations. But pre-release programming is huge. And we just kicked off another round of pre-release classes in Wayne County. So that's how this guy heard, and he's already coming through and starting to talk about this. But what we do there is we have a project that I worked with Kristen on, and we are supporting getting IDs in detention facilities, right? We worked with DOC and Department of Transportation, because if you don't have an ID, you can't get nothing here, right? You can barely go to a food bank and get food if you don't have an ID, right? We also have kicked off, and we're doing very well with a welder certificate program, specifically in Pulaski County, but a certificate training program, and I have to give a shout out to Goodwill of Kentucky. I mean, they come in and they helped us put that together and have really removed a lot of the barriers that otherwise I don't know how we would have done without you all, right? And then also, this goes right along with the welders program, but a work release program. We have individuals that are going through certificate training that are state inmates. So they're Kristen's individuals. Okay. And they are now being able to get that certification, and they're able to go to work while incarcerated and earn the wage that I would make if I went and applied, right? That's huge. And I want to share a story with you about, we just heard this just the other day, Miss Myra and I. There's a young lady that graduated the welding cohort in Pulaski County. Okay. She went to work through the work release, got released from incarceration, remained employed. Okay. And you think, oh, that's a really good success. That's great. The story don't stop there, right? Okay. I got some more for you, right? So then she is actually enrolled, and she's now a student in Somerset Community College that her employer is paying for her next level of education while she's still working, right? That's huge. That's like a like if you're checking boxes, I mean, that's great, right? Apart from that, she's got her life squared away. And the way that we did that is, again, that total wraparound, intentional case management, and all of our partners really pitched into that, right? I think Sight had a big heavy hand in that. We did, Goodwill, the college, and the employer, right? That's a huge success for me. All right. So that's all we do in the jails, right? And we're expanding that quite rapidly. And we also have the diversion model. And you'll see a visual in the next slide of really what that diversion model looks like, but it applies, right? And I'll dive into that a little bit. But then also, here's the third leg, is also a family court and a juvenile justice side of things, right? We have, the big talk is, accessing individuals, accessing our youth population. That's the way to do it. But we do it, and you do it collectively with the entire family, right? So all of this pours into this Putting Kentuckians First model that we've come up with. And I will show you, it's busy, okay? I did this. I'm not a presenter, but I have some points that I really do want to, point out, right? So you'll see over here on this side, that is our referral points. That could be a jail, that could be probation and parole, that could be whatever. And really the things that I want to kind of discuss is, red is that immediate need, right? We're not sending individuals within the red or with those immediate needs to employment. That is that we're spinning our wheels. It's not going to work. Or if it does work, ultimately, we're not setting that person up for success, right? Ultimately, there's no long-term sustainability there, right? But what I want you to really think about and focus on is, as the graph gets wider, we all start pouring back into these single points along the phases, right? We're all pouring back into overall stability. Those needs are met. They're ready to go, and pouring back into single points where we're able to take the next step forward, right? You're not going to put anybody that's in active addiction, you're not going to put them into a training, right? They need to get their recovery life squared away before they continue on, right? And so, you can see that. And then at the bottom, I would be nowhere without all, and I've probably left some out, but these are our partners that really help. And they're staggered in a way of, like, we have that behavioral health aspect of it, right? And the great thing is about Putting Kentuckians First is we're all together through every step of the way. Individuals that will ultimately be making it to that overall stability, they're on our partners' radars as far as some of the providers way before they're ever ready. Right? We're hearing and we're knowing about this individual's life and taking that individualized approach. And so as they go in and we transfer over to that bluish area, that's, hey, they're stable. We can start exploring some different things. What are the options, right? Because that's when real change and transition starts to really be tangible. right? And so what is it? Do they need their GED? Do they need some upskilling training? Do they need to just go straight to work, right? We've got the IDs, we've got all the things going on. Do they need to go straight to work? And then we're employing those partners that offer those services to do what they do best. And ultimately, at the very end, we have sustained employment, right? And then they remain in that follow-up, right? We're talking to them. We, at this point, have built a rapport, hopefully, from the high needs, lowest point in somebody's life, right? All right, the highest needs of someone's life, all the way to their success. You're going to have a relationship with them, right? They're going to know who to call. They're going to want to share that back with you. And we've seen that. That's really, really apparent in the things that we're doing, right? So that is kind of, and again, I know that the visual, forgive, but what I really wanted to, I guess, exemplify here is, we'll incorporate a lot of people to knock out these barriers, but we're all pouring back into the same goal every phase, right? Ultimately, it's sustained employment, right? Let me check. I'm notoriously long-winded, so I'm trying to be cautious, mindful of everybody's time. But that is it. If you have questions, I'd love to discuss with you. Putting Kentuckians first, and I'll stop sharing so I can see everybody. Putting Kentuckians first has been awesome. We have counties that are begging us to come and be like, hey, what are you doing? We have employer partners saying, we want to tap into this pipeline. And it's really taken off. And the pre-release is spreading very wildly and rapidly. I know that Jana is like my right arm, okay, in all of these efforts. Couldn't do any of it without her. She takes and schedules the pre-release classes. She interacts a lot of individual and client-facing things that we do. She's loved by many, right? But really, I mean, that is it's the partnerships, it's the shared goals, and it's walking shoulder to shoulder that I really feel like has made everything specifically about this program as successful as it has been. So I'll be quiet. I can field any questions if you'd like.
Well, and thank you both. I want to give our board members, we have several board members here today from the State Workforce Development Board. Kim Minke, our chair, is also on. Just saw your name, Kim, so sorry about that. But if you all would like to add to this, I know this population, certainly, when I started in August 2020, this population was on Amy Luttrell's workforce participation radar, and the work you all have done and continue to do as that whole ecosystem you showed, that huge graph that, by the way, keeps growing every time I see it, right? You all have done an amazing job. But anybody from the State Workforce Board want to add comments to this, because it has been ongoing?
Debbie, can you hear me?
Hi, Scott. Yep, you're on.
Just to, as a Cumberland's board member also, the church I attend, Jamestown Christian Church, we have in attendance every Sunday, probably 10 to 25 individuals that are involved in this, and they're all actively employed. We have people working at the manufacturing plants in our community. They're earning money. They're living independently. They're having success in life. And so our industrial community, our business community has also been very active and supportive of this. And that's due to Aaron and Myra's work and trying to encourage the local people to be involved. And I know from some of the other counties involved around Placer, they're also doing the same thing. Good work.
Thank you, sir. Hey, and I'd love to share this. This is actually really funny. Talk about good problems to have is I've actually got contacted in regards to one of the pipelines is we've got to find somewhere else to take people, right? That's a really good problem that we're having is they said, look, we're full. And they say, well, I've got 6 people right now ready to go to work, and I've got to find, okay, where's my next pipeline going, right? That's a wonderful problem to have. And that's, super exciting for us. And one thing that I don't know if I really hit on it, I had it written down, but the way this model works is I can take it and implement it in Russell County, Laurel County, Pike County, Fulton. I can take this anywhere because we've got the ingredients and ready to go, right? We just got to find them, right? And so that's the great thing about it, is we can take this model and go wherever, whenever with it.
So this is Amy Luttrell, and I have a question for Aaron and probably Kristen as well. Excuse me. We had some conversation at the last KWIB meeting about the sporadic nature of a lot of the funding that a lot of us use. And so I'm curious about your funding landscape, Aaron, and also Kristen. You both, Kristen, you talked about having some challenges there. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, Kristen, you go first.
Absolutely. Yeah, when we were created from the very beginning, the Department of Corrections was not given any additional funds. So we originally begged, borrowed, and stole funding from some of the prisons and some of probation and parole to create the initial positions that we had. We have only been able to do some of the things that we've done, like the positions focused specifically on employment, the jail position specifically, because of grant funds. We have funding that comes from, in many ways, a variety of different ways, but the core Kentucky Opioid Response Effort grant funds some of our positions. Many of the, not even when you're just talking about positions, but the tangible things, to give people the items they need at the time of release, to pay for the transportation, to pay for everything to happen. Many of that's been funded from a variety of entities. The Office of Drug Control Policy funds some, the Kentucky Chamber has funded some. So we've really had to be creative with leveraging funds, because we didn't get initial state funds for any of this. So
originally, when this was a concept, so I was funded, my position specifically was funded via the governor's discretion, statewide reserve monies, right? And I'm going to say, I have to give a shout out to both of my supervisors, John Swords with South Central and Ms. Meyer Wilson. That's something that I really haven't had to worry on, except giving the information, right? Because we're going after a lot of grants. We've applied for some of that opioid abatement money because it's applicable, right? There are, of course, with ARC, there is funding, and there's a lot of grant funding available. So we are, I read a grant every once in a while, and we're like, hey, that sounds like something that really would really align up. So that currently has been, work and do good work for a while, and then apply for a grant to do a little bit more good work. And so finally we'll be so loud as we'll probably get hopefully get some, be blessed to be able to continue on without some of those worries.
Thank you.
Debbie, this is Kim. Kristen and Aaron, I just have to say amen, and thank you for your passion and the pride that you have in this. I mean, that's just very, very evident. I too have a question, and it kind of goes along with Amy's question as well. In addition to from the funding perspective, Amy covered, but as you were going through your process, the connection points, again, I'm all about connecting dots, okay? When we look at the connection points to the other state agencies or cabinets where you're getting your IDs, where you're getting the basic services and things like that. So do you have direct liaisons or contacts that are dedicated to supporting your efforts here? Or are you having to kind of work with a multitude of people?
So specifically with putting Kentuckians first, again, we have been very blessed because prior to putting a title on it and really doing it, I developed these relationships out of need, right? And so from the top down. So I've been very fortunate to talk to some of the upper level management supervision of these agencies and developed a good relationship. And so now at this point, we have kind of the boots on the ground individuals that have been designated to be a part of the task force. We meet every single Friday. And so I'm meeting every single Friday with representatives from these agencies. Now, not that supervision level, but we have those conversations when we need to. And on some, I'm going to be honest with you, some we just kind of do what we feel the right thing is and what's necessary. And that happens to catch the attention of high level individuals. And then they of course, then gain an understanding and support it. And so it's been very, the processes have been very easy with that. Right. And I think a lot of that was that pre-work and then, when staffing and everything comes around and they have seen the success, they allot representatives to be a part of this and really pour into it. And that's kind of from my perspective of it, but it's been amazing to see the state and the local and the regional, kind of everybody coming together and really be able to share. And then it makes those handoffs that much easier, right? Yeah, and Ms. Myra?
And other thing, Kim, that we're a part of are the reentry council meetings, and anyone that wants to join can be part of that, but we meet monthly. So at that time, if we have barriers or if there's new information, we all work through it. And it's broken up by region. So whenever we're on that, we have probation and parole, we have the reentry people, which the reefers, and we have different members from the community that's supporting that too. You have jails, you have the jailers and all of those. And then as we hear barriers that we're not aware of, this helps peel that onion back and help us remove it.
Yeah, well, that's great. I guess, part of what I'm looking for and part of what we're trying to do with the Resource and Realignment Committee within WIOA is how do we formalize that and how do we develop that line or that pipeline, if you will, for funding and resources to allow for your successful implementation of these programs. And then to your point earlier, how do we then duplicate that across the state and truly be able to meet the needs that are out there to affect the bigger change and really see those numbers continue to go in the right direction. If you can help me there, just and maybe it's just a listing of the groups that are participating in this so that we can then go back and make sure that we're developing those formal pipelines, if you will.
Absolutely.
Great.
I think too, Chair Minke, the work of the collaborative board right now is kind of focused on that.
Right.
So we're in those data gathering pieces right now, but I love the graphics that both Kristen and Aaron had, and we'll be sharing those certainly on our site, on the K website by tomorrow. But just can't thank everybody enough here. I just saw Sharon Price's name with Community Action, another key partner in everything that we do, whether it's this population or others. But thank you everybody for the interest, certainly. And if you have additional questions, you can reach out to me and I can get answers from Aaron or Kristen. We want to be mindful of your time, so it's almost 1:00. Any final words, Kristen or Aaron?
I appreciate y'all letting me be a part of this. I love what I do, right? I love being able to spread it and share it. And anybody needs me, I'm a real easy guy to get a hold of.
Absolutely. I would just say thank you for listening. You know, I've been in this field for about 17 years. I've worked in the prison, I've worked in the community and seen the need for the assistance for our population. But it takes a village. So thank you all very much for just listening to us about our populations.
Have a great day, you all. Thank you.
All right, take care.